Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking about PlayStation 1 hidden gems, specifically in the racing genre. So I went through my collection, picked out a stack of games here that I think are pretty great and undiscovered and unplayed by most. I mean, we all know about games like Gran Turismo, Crash Team Racing, the Jet Moto series, but there are a lot of games out there that I think you racing fans don't even know about and would really appreciate. So what do you say we start with the first game that I've picked out, a great little gem developed by Taito, RC Daigo.
3, 2, 1, go!
This is easily the best RC-style game I've played since RC Pro-Am. RC Daigo has a unique camera style in that it makes it seem as though you're spectating from the sidelines as the little RC cars zip around the tracks.
Midway through the race, just keep on the same way.
There's a championship mode which feels almost like an RPG in the sense that replaying tracks over and over is kind of essential to getting enough points to level up or upgrade the equipment of the cars. Because when you try to race on some of the advanced tracks without doing this, you'll always fail. And this brings me to my next point. It's a really hard game.
Moving into the final stages of the race. Make a final spurt!
But luckily the game has an arcade style mode that lets you race on all of the game's tracks, on-road and off-road. And this gives you a sense of just how fast and crazy some of the later levels can get. It requires a ton of practice to learn the tracks in order to finish them in time before the timer runs out, and if you crash into like one or two walls on later levels, you might as well just restart the race because there's no recovering.
Time over!
And the presentation of RC Daigo is top-notch, featuring beautiful track environments that are only more impressive thanks to the amazing camera work, and a rockin' arcade soundtrack to go along with it. With that being said, RC fans should not miss out on this one. Make sure that you add this to your collection. Skaars is a game that doesn't really do anything exceedingly different to stand out, but everything that it does do really impressed me, especially the attention to detail in the tracks and the colors and the frame rate of the game. And the weapons are fun too. They're varied, though there's just a bit too many of those kind of trap or hazard kind of weapons that litter the course. But the game did notice this problem and added a jump button that lets you avoid most of them on the track. The vehicles are pretty creative in that each one resembles a certain kind of animal, which adds a nice little touch of personality to the game. There are 9 different tracks to race on, and each one does have a nighttime version as well, adding just a little bit more variance to the game. And most importantly, it has solid controls. And the vehicle stats in this game really matter, especially when it comes to handling, because I'm telling you, one vehicle will be swerving all over the place and the other one will turn on a dime. So this is one racing game where you definitely want to pick a vehicle that handles right for you. In the end though, this is a fun game, check it out. Rollcage Stage 2 has all the right elements going for it. It has impressive graphics that have explosive environmental effects, tight controls, and great music too. However, its best feature is that your car can flip around the track. You can even land upside down and continue to race due to its design. Because of this, you can actually race on walls and ceilings, which is encouraged due to placement of speed boosts and weapon power-ups. My only complaint, however, is that as fun as racing on walls and ceilings can be, it often results in my vehicle spinning out or getting reversed on landing. I'm sure it becomes easier with practice, but I can still highly recommend this game to any fan of sort of these high adrenaline, fast, extreme racing games. This is a fun one. Toon Grand Prix is by far the most colorful racing game I have ever played. The tracks scream with personality as you go into this sort of like sensory overload, trying to just take in everything that you see going on around you. While the tracks are definitely the biggest highlight of this game, luckily everything else is just as good. The turning of your vehicle sort of results in this stretching animation, as though a cartoon car kinda would when you're taking a wide turn if you've ever watched a cartoon movie. The controls have a really unique feel to them due to this animation that has this build-up, creating a sense of momentum around turns that I have never really felt before in a racing game. The weapon system is also handled a bit differently than your typical kart racer, which would normally have you run into the weapon power-up and then you get a random weapon to use. But in Motor Toon Grand Prix, you collect money that's found sparingly around the tracks, and then you spend this money during the race at any point to get a spinning wheel that can land on one of the many different item power-ups. I really appreciated the difference and the variance between all the different items that you can get in the game, and it just added a sense of a bit more strategy in that you have to be very strategic when you choose to get a power-up instead of just constantly getting them throughout the race. The game was even successful enough to produce a sequel, so if you end up picking this one up and liking it enough, there's even more of this series to look forward to. Speed Punks is a game I reviewed in the past, but it's just so good there was no way I couldn't include it in this video. I'm sure looking at gameplay here will remind you very much of games like Crash Team Racing or even Mario Kart to some extent. While it doesn't come close to perfecting the kart racing genre, it does do a good enough job in every aspect to be considered a must-own for your collection. There are drawbacks, however, and the biggest one is the controls. This is an incredibly hard game that will take a lot of practice before you're able to successfully navigate the best routes on these tracks. The drifting is the biggest culprit of this, which can make it feel like you're racing on ice at times. And this game is a treat to look at. I'm sure you can tell it has beautiful environments, there's a lot of different animations, and even the power-ups, while basic, have their own flashy style to make even those fun to look at and use, because they have the certain impact when you hit an enemy racer. And you will learn to hate the AI in this game because rubber banding is turned on in full force, so you can usually expect some really tight finishes at the finish line. However, of all the games in this video, and despite its flaws, Speed Punks is still by far the most well-balanced and polished game of them all. Running Wild may look a little bit familiar to those of you that had an original Xbox during the launch period, because its spiritual sequel was an Xbox launch title known as Mad Dash Racing. Running Wild takes that sort of on-foot racing style that Mad Dash had with the anthropomorphic animals, and well, it's a little bit more scaled down, but it's still a lot of fun. And it might sound like a weird concept, but this was one of my favorite games back when I got my original PlayStation. The tracks are pretty basic and there really aren't any power-ups to be found. However, the game's fun is rather in its unique sense of running and sliding around the courses, but it feels just right and makes sense in the context of Running Wild because, well, you're running on foot. If you decide to give Running Wild a try, don't expect the most brilliant game when you pick this one up, but it does have solid controls and its somewhat unique for its time concept are what will draw you in. Lastly is Smurf Racer, a game I almost didn't include in this video if it weren't for just how much I didn't hate this game. Something I wasn't expecting. It surprised me by just how much charm it really had. Yes, the game only has 2 weapons, a missile and a bomb, and the bombs are unique in style to each character, but it has 9 different tracks that are surprisingly unique. I was expecting, since there were only 3 different theme worlds, that they would just take the style of the world and recycle it for each of the 3 tracks just with a different course to take. But I was pleasantly surprised to find all 9 tracks were incredibly different from each other, even including multiple different branching paths to take. Not only that, but it controls better than most kart racers from its time. It's a shame this was targeted towards kids though, because there was just so much potential here to be something more. And while I know its simplicity will turn off most gamers, there's some fun to be had for an hour or so if you can find this game for a couple of dollars.
So there you go, guys. Hopefully you discovered a couple of new racing games that you want to check out now on the PlayStation. And be sure to let me know what some of your favorite hidden gem racing games are on the PlayStation, because there's a lot of them out there that couldn't be covered in this video. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.